Welcome to my channel, Veterans Legacy. Today's story is one that will touch your heart, remind you of honor, sacrifice, and what true respect means. It's the story of a funeral, a general's funeral, and an old man who showed the world that sometimes, the greatest heroes don't wear stars on their shoulders. They carry invisible scars, on their hearts. The sun was just beginning to rise over Arlington National Cemetery. The air was crisp, the sky painted in pale orange, and the echo of boots striking pavement carried a solemn rhythm. Rows of soldiers stood in immaculate formation, medals gleaming, rifles polished, their faces expressionless, the kind of silence that only military funerals know. Today, they were burying General Raymond Harlan, a decorated four-star general, a legend in the U.S. Army, a man who had served in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. His name carried weight. To most, he was a hero. To some, he was almost a myth. Dignitaries had gathered, high-ranking officers in dark uniforms, politicians in black suits, and families holding flags close to their chests. Everything was arranged perfectly, the way the military does it. Every second, every salute, every note of the bugle planned to perfection. And then, at the gates of the cemetery, an old man arrived. He was small, frail even. His back slightly hunched, his hands trembling as he held a faded army cap, one that looked older than half the soldiers guarding the entrance. His jacket was worn, his medals dull, his shoes dusty. But there was something about him, a quiet strength in his eyes, a kind of calm that only men who've seen war carry. He approached the guards and said softly, "I'm here to pay my respects to General Harlan." The young private at the gate looked him up and down. "Sir, this is a private ceremony. Invitation only." The old man nodded. "I understand, son, but I served with the general, in Vietnam. We were in the same unit." He reached into his pocket, pulled out an old photograph, two young soldiers, smiling in the mud, arms around each other, wearing the same uniform, same insignia. "That's me," he whispered. "And that's Ray." The guard hesitated, but his orders were clear. "Sir, I'm sorry, I can't let you in without clearance." The old man's face fell slightly, but he didn't argue. He simply stepped back, looked through the iron bars at the distant flag-draped casket, and removed his cap. Then he stood there, at attention. Silent, motionless, waiting. Inside the cemetery, the ceremony began. The flag was unfolded. The rifles fired their salute. The bugler lifted his instrument and began to play taps, that slow, haunting tune that pierces straight through the soul. And outside those gates, the old man saluted. Each note of the bugle seemed to pull him back through time, to jungles where men screamed for medics, to nights when rain mixed with blood, to the face of a young lieutenant named Raymond Harlan who once pulled him out from under enemy fire. Back then, Harlan wasn't a general. He was just a leader who never left a man behind. A colonel walking toward the gate noticed the old man standing there. He frowned. "Who's that?" he asked the guard. "Sir, he says he served with the general. Doesn't have clearance." The colonel sighed. "We can't have interruptions during a funeral like this. Keep him outside." And so, the ceremony continued, but not everyone was focused on the speeches. Among the crowd was a man who noticed the commotion. General Marcus Steele, one of the few living four-star generals and a close friend of Harlan. He saw the old man standing at the gate, barely steady on his feet, arm trembling from holding the salute too long. Something in that image struck him deep. He turned to his aide. "Who is that man outside the gate?" "Sir, the guard said he's a veteran. Claims he served with General Harlan." Steele's brow furrowed. "Served with him? During Vietnam?" "Yes, sir." The general nodded slowly, and then, without another word, began walking toward the gates. Every officer turned as General Steele walked away from the ceremony. The guards froze, confused, as the four-star general stopped right in front of the old man. The old veteran dropped his salute immediately. "Sir," he said quietly, "I didn't mean to cause a disturbance. I just wanted to say goodbye to my friend." Steele looked at him for a long moment, then stepped closer. "What's your name, soldier?" "Private First Class William Carter, sir. 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry. Charlie Company, 1968. The general's eyes widened slightly. He knew that unit. He knew that battle. "You were at Hughes City?" he asked. The old man nodded. "Yes, sir." That's where the general saved my life. I got hit bad. He dragged me out under fire. I wanted to thank him again, but I never got the chance." General Steele stood silent for a moment, then turned to the guards. "Open the gate." The guard hesitated. "Sir, that's an order, Private." The gates creaked open, and Steele placed a firm hand on Carter's shoulder. "Come with me, soldier. You're not watching this funeral from outside those bars." As they walked down the long gravel path toward the casket, all eyes turned. The murmurs began. "Who is that? Why's he bringing a civilian in?" But Steele ignored them all. When they reached the front, he helped the old man to a seat, not in the back, but right near the family. The widow of General Harlan looked at him curiously. Steele leaned down and whispered something to her. Her eyes welled up with tears. She nodded softly. When the ceremony resumed, it was as if time had stopped. The old man sat there, cap in his hands, head bowed. As the chaplain spoke about honor, duty, and sacrifice, the old man's eyes wandered to the flag covering the coffin. He remembered a younger Ray Harlan, muddy, exhausted, always carrying too much responsibility but never complaining. He remembered Harlan sharing his last cigarette, writing letters for the men who couldn't read, and saying, "If I ever go, make sure the boys get home first." Now here he was, the last of those boys. After the final prayer, General Steele stood again. He approached the podium, looked at the crowd, and then down at the casket. He spoke slowly, his voice strong but filled with emotion. "I've known General Harlan for 30 years. We've fought wars together, led men together. But before he was a general, he was a soldier. And among those soldiers, there are names history forgets. Men who never got medals, who never got recognition, but without whom men like Harlan would never have made it home." He paused, then turned to William Carter. "Mr. Carter here was one of those men. He was with General Harlan in Vietnam. He represents every soldier who stood shoulder to shoulder with him, in mud, in fear, and in courage. And today, he stands here to say goodbye, not as an outsider, but as a brother." The crowd was silent. Even the young guards at the back felt their throats tighten. Carter tried to stand, but his knees shook. Steele reached out to steady him. With a trembling voice, Carter spoke. "Ray Harlan wasn't just my officer. He was my friend. He saved me when I was nothing but a scared kid. I tried to thank him once, but he told me, 'Don't thank me, Billy. Just live for the ones who can't.'" He wiped a tear from his cheek. "I've lived a long life, sir. But not a day goes by I don't think about him. I came here today because I wanted to tell him I kept my promise." The crowd bowed their heads. Even the chaplain had tears in his eyes. When the bugler played taps again, Carter saluted one final time, his hand steady now, as if every ounce of his strength had returned for that one moment. The flag was folded with precision, and instead of handing it to a general or dignitary, Steele stepped forward and placed it gently in Carter's hands. "On behalf of a grateful nation," he said softly, "and a grateful friend." Carter held the flag to his chest, whispering, "Welcome home, Ray." When the ceremony ended, people came up quietly to shake the old man's hand. Some saluted him, others simply nodded, unable to find words. As the crowd dispersed, Steele walked beside him down the path toward the gate. "You know," he said, "you gave us all something today, something this army can't issue, can't train, remembrance." Carter smiled faintly. "All I did was show up, sir." Steele shook his head. "No, soldier. You reminded us what this uniform really stands for." When they reached the gate, the general snapped a crisp salute to the old man, and every young soldier standing nearby did the same. Carter returned the salute, his eyes glistening, and whispered, "For all the boys who never made it home, and for Ray." Then he turned and walked slowly down the road, disappearing into the golden light of the setting sun, the sound of his boots fading, leaving behind only the echo of respect. Sometimes, heroes aren't in the spotlight. They're the ones forgotten by time, who carry the memories of brothers lost and promises kept. And sometimes, it takes one old soldier to remind us that no man who gave everything for his country should ever stand outside the gate. Thank you for watching this story on Veterans Legacy. If this story touched your heart, honor these heroes by sharing it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. because every story of sacrifice deserves to be remembered. Until next time, keep their legacy alive. United States.